It was a back and forth game between the Dodgers and the D-backs. Luckily, it ended on fourth, I guess. Whichever the good part of back and forth is, Dodgers walked it off. Let's talk about it. Let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dodger fans, this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you to our everydayers for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. And thank you to those of you who are with us live on YouTube as we're recording on Tuesday night after the Dodgers walked off the DBacks. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. And, make it easy on yourself by subscribing wherever you're watching or listening right now. If this is your first time with us, my name is Jeff Snyder. That guy next to me is my co-host, Vince Samperio. Vince and I are both lifelong Dodger fans, just like a lot of you. We've also both spent time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room, so we bring you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to PrizePicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. And with that said, let's jump into this. This was a fun game, back and forth. Like I said, Dodgers jumped out to a lead, then Christian Walkered, and then the Dodgers lost the lead, went behind, came back, ended up taking the lead, lost the lead, went behind, and fortunately took the lead one more time, and that one happened in the bottom of the ninth inning. And when you take the lead in the bottom of the ninth inning, it's called a walk-off. It's called a win. Dodgers won the game. It was a pretty fun game, Vince.
Yeah, it was one out away from being an annoying loss. And then it didn't end up being that, so that makes the game overall fun. But yeah, it's one of those games where it's not as fun to see the pitching kind of do what they did, but we'll talk about that later. But it's fun to see the offense do what they did, which is put up runs late in the game and put up runs when they're down to their last out. And when all seemed like a loss was coming, the Dodgers turned it around.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the first two guys striking out against Paul Sewald frustrates me because he doesn't seem like he should be good, and he is very good. But luckily, after the first two strikeouts, then the Dodgers remembered, he shouldn't be very good, and they treated him that way. Will Smith doubled, Freddie Freeman doubled, Teoscar Hernandez singled. I guess this is as good a time as any to throw this out. I mentioned this on Twitter, but this baseball card I'm holding in my hand, it's an autographed rookie card of Teoscar Hernandez that we're going to give away. And all you got to do for a chance to win that is in the comments, not the chat here. You can talk about Teo in the chat too, but in the actual YouTube comments, I want you to just post your favorite Teoscar Hernandez moment so far this season. And we'll give it a couple days because I know not everybody's live with us. We'll give it a couple days, and then probably Thursday or Friday, we will pick our favorite comment of the favorite Teoscar Hernandez moments from the comments, and the winner will get this baseball card mailed to them. It's a pretty cool card, even though he's on the Astros. It was before the Astros were cheaters, so it's okay. And it's still our Teoscar Hernandez. So, Teo had a big day. That was his third hit of the game, I think, and third RBI. Shohei Ohtani had a 2-run homer. We'll talk about Shohei in the second segment. It was really like I felt like they were going to walk it off, and that started to go down after Shohei's strikeout because 2 outs, it's hard. But, when you've got Will Smith, Freddie Freeman, and Teoscar Hernandez coming up, it's hard to really give up when you're only down by 1 run because all 3 of those guys are capable of tying the game with 1 swing, and they're definitely all capable of getting a hit and especially an extra base hit.
Yeah, and Will Smith nearly tied it on his own. Needed a little bit more a loft on it, but yeah, it was one of those games where even when they lost the lead and Blake Trinan gave up the runs on bad defense on his own part, and then Ohtani came back and crushed the baseball right after that, and you're like, okay, well, now we got the guys that we want coming up, or I guess no, Trinan gave up the they gave up the lead before that, trying to let them tie it, right? So, but either way, you had Trinan and Phillips coming up, and you're like, okay, well, this game should be over. And fortunately, it wasn't. And then, Jock Peterson on a 2-strike pitch, shouldn't, throw anything near up in the zone, especially a fastball that's not, above his head. So it was not ideal situation for that. But then for the offense to come through and for it to not be via the home run, there. As soon as the D-backs got the run because of the bunt, and then I could just see how this game was going to go. It was like, oh, the D-backs are better at making contact, and the D-backs play small ball, and that's why they won this game, and blah, blah, blah. And then, right after that, Shohei Ohtani, hits a home run, or right before that, Shohei Ohtani had hit a home run to give him the lead. And it's like, look, just as much as small ball made them tie the game, right before that, big ball gave the Dodgers the lead. But then in the bottom of the ninth, Dodgers said, all right, we can play not big ball either, and we can go and just score 2 runs without a home run.
Yeah, of course, in the bottom of the 8th, the Dodgers tried to play the Diamondbacks version of small ball, had Miguel Rojas bunt Andy Paez to second. You guys know me. If you're an everydayer, I'm not a big fan of sacrifice bunts most of the time. And when Jason Hayward and Chris Taylor are coming up, that's definitely a time I'm not a fan of a sac bunt. I don't think getting out on purpose is usually a good idea. And if you've got great hitters coming up, okay, but Jason Hayward has been very bad lately. Chris Taylor has been good lately, but he came up in a spot where even he needed a hit, not just a sac fly, because Jason Hayward had gotten out. That's the problem with a sac bunt. You really get just one chance to get the hit, or because you any other future productive out is no longer effective, because then there's 2 outs. So yeah, I didn't like that call. When you've got 3 guys coming up and one of them is a good hitter and the other 2 aren't, don't have the good hitter bunt.
Yeah, and as much as, like I said, Taylor's been better of late, he's the guy that's going to come up with potentially 2 outs, because Hayward hasn't been great yet. And, Ginkel's one of the guys that has some good stuff for the D-backs. So, probably, especially with Rojas, like Rojas is a guy that, yeah, he's going to make contact, might be more liable to hit into a double play, but he's also more likely to hit a single than the other 2 guys. And if you can get one extra bat, you get Gavin Lux a chance. And as much as Gavin Lux has been bad, he does have a little bit better numbers when he's hitting with runners in scoring position. So you would have gave yourself some more chances there. So, yeah, all in all, it worked out at the end of it. But, Miguel Rojas, not the guy I would be bunting with right now, just because of the simple fact that he's one of the few guys that can hit at the bottom of the order.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a couple of people in the comments talking about Christian Walker. Craig asked why he pitched to Christian Walker, and I kind of commented on it in the chat. Christian Walker has a lot of home runs against the Dodgers. Overall, he hasn't been a good hitter against the Dodgers. He's batting .235 in his career against the Dodgers. Basically, it's home runs, and that's about it. He has a lot of home runs, a handful of doubles, and he did poke in a single, which was his 8th single in his career against the Dodgers. By comparison, he has almost the same number of homers against the Rockies, 23 against the Dodgers, 24 against the Rockies, and just a few more plate appearances against the Rockies. He has 8 singles against the Dodgers. He has 55 singles against the Rockies. Against the Rockies, Christian Walker is actually a great hitter. Against the Dodgers, Christian Walker is a kind of lousy hitter who runs into a home run when it's least convenient for us pretty often. But you can't. I mean, you're not going to pitch around a guy just because he's hit some home runs against you. The fact is, everybody, you don't pitch around major league hitters unless there's a specific reason, and there was never a specific reason to pitch around Walker in this situation.
Yeah. So, I mean, realistically, there's no one in the D-backs lineup that you necessarily fear.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot more to talk about from this game. We're going to talk about Shohei Ohtani's big night. Even though he did strike out in the 9th inning, the rest of his game was pretty awesome. We'll talk about the home run, talk about everything about it, and his season where he's at right now. So thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning, and please keep it Locked On Dodgers. This episode of Locked On Dodgers is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. With summer travel heating up, especially travel for baseball games, it's time to explore those U.S. cities you always secretly wanted to learn more about. Yes, we're talking about other team cities. With hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com, you might just find your perfect stay even in a rival team city. If a city has a big league team, it also has great places to stay. I've booked great hotels in nearly every MLB city in America, and Booking.com makes that so much easier. From hotels that overlook stadiums to family-friendly resorts, Booking.com has so many choices across the U.S. for your summer travel this MLB season. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals. Book today on Booking.com on the site or in the Booking.com app. Booking.com, Booking.yeah. This episode is also brought to you by Game Time. I've told you guys many times about how great Game Time is when you need tickets to a Dodger game, some other sporting event, a comedy show, or whatever it is. But today I want to talk about concerts, or one specific concert, because this past weekend, country music superstar George Strait came to Salt Lake City. My wife and I are both huge George Strait fans, so we really wanted to go. I've used Game Time many times, but one feature I've never taken full advantage of is the last minute deals where you can save up to 60% off buying last minute tickets. So all day Saturday, while we watched our son play in his baseball tournament, my wife and I kept checking Game Time and watching the ticket prices drop. We checked the seat map, see where the seats were, look at the price, and eventually we found the perfect seats at the perfect price. In the end, we spent an awesome evening watching the king of country music, and we didn't have to break the bank to do it. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Hey, we're back. Thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning, especially our everydayers. If you're not an everydayer, it's easy to become one. Just watch or listen every weekday morning. Also, be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles to get your daily dose of sports, whether you're focused on all sports or specifically LA. Locked On Sports Los Angeles is where you can catch the Locked On Dodgers postcast with Pete Fox after almost every Dodger game. You can go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. It's a fun text message-based service. Text us directly, have one-on-one conversations, get our thoughts and stuff before the podcast. It's just a few bucks a month with a free 14-day trial. And remember, you can catch every pitch of every Dodger game on SiriusXM or the SXM app simply by searching for Dodgers. And Vince, this game, it ended on the Teoscar Hernandez walk-off hit. Reminder, comment in the comments with your favorite Teoscar moment of the season for a chance to win this Teoscar Hernandez autographed rookie card. But before that, another big play in this game was Shohei Ohtani's 2-run home run. Dodgers were down 3-2 at the time, put them up 4-3. It was classic Ohtani homer, just, one of those no-doubters off the bat. 37-degree launch angle, 112 miles an hour, went 433 feet. You don't see 37-degree launch angles go that far very often because usually if it goes high, it can't go as far. But when you're Shohei Ohtani, you can hit it high and far. It was a lot of fun, and that was one of 3 hits. He ended up just a triple shy of the cycle to extend his league lead in home runs and batting average and get closer to the league lead in RBIs. I don't know, Vince. You think Shohei has a chance at the Triple Crown?
He's definitely got a chance. The one question, the homers for sure, the RBI, I think he can keep it close at the very least. The batting average is something we necessarily haven't seen from him before in terms of competing for a batting title. But, this is a little bit different season. He is in a different type of lineup. He is only doing hitting and rehabbing on the pitching side. So, it seems like there's a chance for him to do this. And, it's halfway through the season and he's hitting this high. You don't expect him to go down much lower. Like, even if he has a cold streak, he's going to follow it up with a hot streak, you got to imagine. And, whatever it is about since he's moved to the top of the lineup, that's also helped him a little bit. But he probably would have done that even in the number 2 spot. But yeah, I do think that there's a chance Osuna slowed down significantly in terms of the homer and the RBI. Shohei's, caught up and surpassed him by a handful of homers now. He's going to catch up on the RBI probably by the All-Star break. And if he can just keep hitting beyond the power and driving in runs, then he's definitely got a shot.
You froze up, Vince. I heard if he can just keep hitting.
then he has a shot.
All right. I agree. Yeah. And this one, like, it seems like he has, he's had hot stretches. He's had cold stretches this season. But it seems like Shohei is capable more than most guys of having extended hot stretches, because like even that cold stretch to start the season, he was still doing fine. It just wasn't Shohei Ohtani numbers. And so I feel like his baseline is pretty darn high for even when he's quote unquote struggling. It's going to be, oh yeah, he only has a 800 OPS over the last 2 weeks or whatever, which, most guys are trying to get up to. And so that's one of the things that's really exciting about Ohtani to me, is like, even when he's struggling, every time he comes to play, he could do something pretty awesome right now. And, it's a moment like my sons had been out tonight and they got home just in time for that inning, and seeing Shohei coming up after Lux walked, Shohei coming up, it's just everybody just stops what they're doing. They both want to get something to eat, everything. They just stopped and said, we're going to watch Shohei hit because something magical might happen. And that's something that, it's a special thing that I hope we never take for granted, that over the years, every once in a while, Clayton Kershaw at his peak was kind of, I remember I used to almost, like when the Dodgers were playing and Kershaw was pitching, I would almost wish for the Dodgers to get out quicker so I could watch Kershaw pitch again. Like that's how special he was. And, Matt Kemp in 2011 was a lot like that for a lot of the season. Eric Gagne was like that. They've had these moments over the years where different players, where you're like, you might see something special right now. And Shohei Ohtani is absolutely that for sure.
Yeah, he's definitely, somebody that you're paying attention to, and not just Dodger fans, like baseball fans in general. As much as his move to the Dodgers was maybe a little bit polarizing, people are still going to watch and people are still going to pay attention. And just I think for me, it's just not watching him as much in Anaheim. Seeing the highlights, but not on a daily basis. Like, does he ever not hit the ball hard? Like, there's the thing they used to do with the barrels are overrated. Like, he doesn't really fall under that category. He hardly ever doesn't hit the ball under like 95 to 100 miles an hour. So that's the biggest part with it, and that's why when he comes to the plate, as not great, as bad as he looked in that strikeout in the 9th inning, like you get that about like the 7th inning when he hits that monstrous home run, and every time he comes to the plate, you even if he's in a cold stretch, you think there's a chance, because we've seen him do it in the cold stretches where he just, unleashes a home run that doesn't look like he's going to hit a home run, or hits into the opposite field that shouldn't go as far as baseball should go to the opposite field. So, yeah, it's definitely been fun to watch on a night in, night out basis, compared to just watching him when I could before.
Yeah, for sure. And it's, he's at 27 home runs right now. I think we've reached a point where it would be kind of a letdown if he doesn't set the Dodgers record for home runs this year. No Dodgers ever hit 50 home runs in the season. It seems like Ohtani, he's basically on pace to, I would guess he's probably on pace for about 52-ish. And and that's even with a couple cold stretches so far. I mean, he's at 10 in his last 14 games or something. You do that a couple times, that pace goes up real quick. The Aaron Judge is the only guy in baseball with a higher hard hit percentage than Ohtani, and Aaron Judge is ahead of his own pace from when he hit 62 homers a couple of years ago. So, that's the kind of freak of nature territory we're in with Ohtani this year, and it's kind of nice that Ohtani and Judge are in separate leagues now, so that they can both win themselves an MVP this year.
Yeah, definitely, and even Judge had a horrific start to the season for him, and his pace has been incredible to watch. But we get to watch Ohtani every night, and as good as Judge is, and he's fun to watch, I don't know, I just think Ohtani is a little bit more fun to watch, but it might be a little biased.
Yeah, absolutely. Ohtani is a more dynamic player. Judge is a dynamic hitter. Ohtani is a dynamic player, and that's and maybe obviously when he comes back to pitch, we'll get to see more of that. And maybe when his pitching career is done and he becomes an outfielder, we'll get to see it in the field too. Or maybe he becomes the Dodgers shortstop. I wouldn't put anything past Shohei Ohtani, the best player in baseball. So, there's plenty more to talk about. There's some negative from this game. Bobby Miller was better than his last couple starts, but still not great. And then some relievers who are normally really, really good struggled in this game too. So we'll come back. We'll talk about that, but we'll try to end on a happy note. So please keep it locked on Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. With PrizePicks, you could turn $10 into $1,000 in a single game watching your favorite sports this summer. You can make a PrizePicks lineup in as little as 60 seconds. Just need to pick more or less on 2 to 6 players' stat projections, and you're locked in. PrizePicks is the best way to get action on sports in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make PrizePicks the #1 fantasy sports app. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's promo code LOCKEDONMLB in the PrizePicks app for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Hey, everybody. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Thanks for being an everydayer. If you're not an everydayer, just watch or listen every weekday morning and make that easy on yourself by subscribing wherever you're watching or listening right now. Go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. Just a few bucks a month, free 14-day trial, and you can text directly with us. It's a lot of fun. Check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, the 2 24/7 streaming channels on YouTube from the Locked On Podcast Network. And remember, you can catch every pitch of every Dodger game on SiriusXM or the SXM app by searching for Dodgers. And remember, in the comments, not just the chat, but the actual YouTube comments of this episode, please post your favorite Teoscar Hernandez moment of this season so far for a chance to win this Teoscar Hernandez autographed rookie card. I will mail this very card to the winner. We'll pick in a few days our favorite comment. If you listen on the podcast, just hop on the YouTube episode and comment there. It's easy enough to do, even if it's not your preferred way to take in this podcast. We appreciate all of you, but this one we'll be doing through YouTube. I'm going to try to do more of these. I've got so many baseball cards here at my house, and I might as well give them away to people. So this is the first of many of those, hopefully. So check that out. So Vince, this game, Bobby Miller, pretty good for the most part. The only runs he gave up was the 2-run homer to Christian Walker. The only hits he gave up all came in a row. Jock Peterson and Christian Walker single and then a homer for the 2 runs. And then the next 2 guys singled and then a walk to load the bases with nobody out. And Miller somehow wiggled out of that, went one more inning to get through 5 innings, 2 earned runs. Results-wise, definitely better than the last couple starts. Still definitely not back to ace material, though, right?
Yeah, he's not there yet. It was good to see him kind of recover after that rough start in that inning, because from what we've seen from Bobby Miller in the past is innings can kind of snowball really quick with him. And that seemed like it was going to be that inning there after the home run and after the string of hits. And he ended up getting out of it. And, the bad part was that he was already up there in pitch count. So the 5 innings, like they might have let him go out for the 6 if he was like around 80-some pitches. Being at 90, no reason to send him back out there, especially since he ended on a positive note. So he says we're stepping in the right direction. Dave Roberts said we might look at that inning as a turning point of the season for Bobby Miller. Hopefully that's what it is. It's one of those where he started really strong and then was just, kind of there for a while, and then he got hurt. And, it's kind of like restarting. And if you're a guy that's never really had to come off injury or kind of pick yourself back up in the middle of the season, it's kind of tough. And, he missed a lot of time. So the stuff is there in terms of like what he has and what he's been throwing. I just think it's a matter of the mentality, figuring it out. And, I don't know. I don't think they haven't mentioned anything mechanics wise. I don't think it's that. It's just, kind of finding that mentality again and attacking guys.
Yeah. Everything about Bobby Miller that made him one of the top pitching prospects in baseball is still there. And so as long as the stuff is there, I'm going to keep believing and definitely be in favor of the Dodgers giving him a chance to figure it out. He's going to need to figure it out because right now he doesn't factor into the Dodgers playoff rotation. And if he's not in the rotation, he's maybe not on the roster at all in the postseason. So he needs to battle back to get to that point to earn that spot. But that's a good position for the Dodgers to be in, to have a guy of Bobby Miller's ability potentially being edged out by other guys, because they do have some really good pitchers this year. Obviously, Tyler Glasnow had a rough start, his last start. And Yoshinobu Yamamoto is currently hurt. But, depending on who they get at the trade deadline, I expect them to get a starting pitcher. There's a lot of potential there for just it's anybody's guess right now what the Dodgers postseason rotation will look like. But Bobby Miller has the stuff to work his way back into that conversation.
Yeah.
As for the other pitchers, the bullpen is kind of an uncharacteristic night. Although if you look at it, it was kind of fluky. Obviously, Phillips made a bad pitch to Jock. On an 0-2 pitch, you probably want to throw a slider to make him chase instead of trying to go back up to that cutter high. It didn't work out. But the other two runs, I mean, Alex Vesia, the run he allowed, there were two balls that hit Miguel Rojas in the glove. I joked on Twitter, if that inning had happened with Mookie at shortstop, everybody in the comments of this podcast would be talking about how they need to move Mookie to second base and make Miguel Rojas the shortstop because Mookie's a defensive liability. Obviously, even a great shortstop can have a bad inning, and that's what happened there. They were both called hits. I wouldn't be surprised if were they both called hits? Or did they call the first one an error? I think they were both called hits.
They're both hits.
Yeah, that's rough. They're both plays that should make. The second one, Rojas at least needs to knock it down when you get your glove on it, keep the run from scoring. So that was kind of a rough inning for Vesia. And the other hit he allowed was like a bloop to right field. So tough luck for him. And then the run that Blake Trinan allowed was because of his own throwing error. And so, going into before Jock's home run, I was like, the Dodgers have really outplayed the D-backs here, because really the D-backs got Christian Walker's home run, and that's it. The other two runs were flukes. So I'm glad the Dodgers ended up winning the game, because it felt like they deserved to. But did you have I guess let's talk Vesia first. Do you have concerns about Vesia after this inning?
Not more than I already like. He still makes me uneasy when he comes into games, but that's more maybe of just me as a fan rather than, anything that really shows. Like, all the numbers are pretty positive in his favor. And, they've talked about his fastball, and even though it's not, 96, 97, 98, but it still gets the job done. He's effective. And, this game they talked about on the broadcast, like it's only the second time I think he's allowed multiple hits in an inning, and the first time obviously he's allowed 3 hits in an inning. So he's been good at limiting, damage when he comes in with runners on base. He's been good at limiting it at the very least. And then when he comes in by himself, he's been really, really good when he starts an inning. So it's one of those where you just chalk it up to, that type of night. The two, and even those hits were, like you said, maybe one of them should have been maybe not a hit. So.
Yeah, all 3 of those hits easily could have been outs, under slightly different circumstances. As for Trinan, he gave up the walk-off homer to Brett Wisely in the Giants series. He obviously had the terrible game against whichever team that was, the Royals, when he walked 3 guys, then gave up a grand slam. And then this game, walking a guy and then making a throwing error on the sack bunt. All in all, just it seems like for me, Trinan doesn't always know where his pitchers are going right now. There's a lot of movement, and I guess because of that, I have a little bit of concern. Vesia seems to have found the command. Trinan doesn't have command right now, and it's a lot easier to give up a fluke home run or a fluke hit or walk some guys when you are struggling with your command.
Yeah, he's allowed a walk in 5 appearances this year out of, I think, 20. 3 of them are runs have scored after that walk. So it's one of those where I think it's a matter of teams are starting to basically challenge him to throw strikes. Like most of the time, the walk that he does allow is a leadoff walk to the first guy out, and I think they're just challenging him to throw a strike. And if he doesn't throw a strike, they're not going to swing. They're going to get on base, and then something might happen after. So I think for Treinen, I think he can focus a little bit more on just throwing some strikes to that first batter, getting some, the mid of it, whether it's fastball. I know even almost all his pitches have a lot of movement, but I think he can figure out, like, okay, let me get ahead of the batter. And then at some point, if he keeps doing that and he finds success, then players might start swinging early in the count, and maybe he'll go through another little rough patch in that end when their guys are hitting, fastballs early in the count, and then he can make an adjustment again and kind of mix it up. So I think he's in the middle of making adjustments to the other teams making adjustments.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. And the stuff is very, very good. And so you'll always bet on the stuff, but hopefully he'll get that figured back out here quickly. And then Evan Phillips, Phillips isn't as dominant as he's been the last couple of years so far this year. And that doesn't mean he's not very, very good. He his ERA is still under 2. His FIP is, about 2.5, which is right in line. It's a little bit better than it was last year, a little bit worse than it was in 2022. All in all, like, he's still having a very good season, but he's giving up more hits and more walks than he has the last couple of years. Some of that, he was injured for a while. Yeah, I don't know if some of his rest coming back, but do you have concerns about Evan Phillips at this point?
There's always going to be concerns with relievers. I think the big difference, you look at 2022 and you look at last year and you look at this year, and the strikeout rate's kind of gone down each of those years, and maybe that's a little bit concerning. But again, with him, the stuff is still there. Like, Ketel Marte is the DBacks' best hitter, and he made him look pretty foolish in his at bat. And then he had Jock Peterson 0-2, and I think anything but a high fastball over the middle of the plate probably gets Jock Peterson out there. Unfortunately, he gave him a high fastball that didn't get high enough, and Jock hit it over the wall. So, yeah, obviously there's always going to be a little bit of concern there, but I think with Phillips, the ball's still moving how it needs to move, and, it's just a matter of sometimes it doesn't work out your way.
Yeah, Craig comments here about Dave Roberts pitching Evan Phillips on Sunday in a meaningless game. That was out of necessity because the Dodgers starting pitching was terrible this weekend. And so the bullpen was overtaxed, and Evan Phillips was who was available. They weren't in a situation where they were allowed to use Shohei Hernandez or Miguel Rojas. So they had to go with somebody who was an actual pitcher. And I don't think that affected anything here tonight. It's the reason Evan Phillips was used was because he was more rested than the other guys. So, I've seen a few people criticizing Roberts for that. And it's like, you know what, blame the starting pitching, I guess, because blame James Paxton. James Paxton is the reason Evan Phillips pitched on Sunday, not Dave Roberts. So, but yeah, I do think, Phillips still has the stuff. And I think, again, just like Bobby Miller and just like Blake Treinen, when the stuff is still there, you kind of expect the results to start working themselves out as they make adjustments as the season goes on. And one of the things that we've learned about being a Dodger fan is that everything that happens in the regular season doesn't really matter as long as it gets them ready for October. So as long as those guys are getting the outs in October, I don't really care what happens right now, especially when the Dodgers come back and walk it off and win anyway.
Yeah, and realistically, that's what it comes down to. Like Evan Phillips and Treinen and Vesta giving up runs on July 2nd will probably have no bearing on anything moving forward.
Yep, absolutely. I think that'll do it for us for today. You got anything else, Vince?
Nothing else.
All right, last call for this. Throw your comments in the YouTube comments section for a chance to win this Teoscar Hernandez rookie card autographed. Just put your favorite Teoscar Hernandez moment of the season so far in the comments. We'll pick the winner in a couple days. So whether you're live with us right now or watching on YouTube a little bit later, that's fine either way. Thank you for being an everydayer. If you're not an everydayer, it's easy to become one. Just watch or listen every weekday morning. You can make that easier on yourself by subscribing wherever you're watching or listening right now. You can check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, 2 24/7 streaming channels on YouTube from the Locked On Podcast Network. You can go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. Check out, you can catch every pitch of every Dodger game on SiriusXM or the SXM app. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Vince is on Twitter at VinceSense91. I am on Twitter at Snydog. DMs are open for both of us there. You can also email us, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or send us a voicemail or a text message to 323-863-LOCK, 5625. We are here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Have a good one.